Hi, everyone. Welcome to the ufohub live stream. Thank you for spending your Friday with me, and I hope you all are doing well. This week has been quite unique for me. It's been very busy and hectic in all kinds of ways that it usually is not. And maybe you can tell, maybe you can't. I got burnt my melon over the last weekend, and I should have known better to wear a hat or something. But anyway, dealing with a whole bunch of stuff. But thank you for being here. And today I was really trying real hard to find a guest, to get somebody. And I've contacted a lot of people, and it just so happened that everybody wanted to, but not this Friday. So a whole bunch of stuff is ready for next week, but unfortunately, you get to stick with me today. I'm hoping that I can. I've been wanting to kind of go over a talk that I gave several years back during the KC Paracon conference, and I called it the 5 stages of contact. I wanted to go a little bit more into detail because while you're on stage, you're kind of on the spot and you have to talk and make sense and all that other stuff. So this way, I can just go over step by step and give as much detail as I possibly can. Maybe some of these things you already know about, maybe some things you don't. But again, I hope you get something from this. And if not, at least thank you for spending the weekend or at least the Friday with me. So just a few things first. I wanted to, as of today, there's 2 weeks left to the Ozark UFO conference that's going to be held virtually. And let me see here. You can access, go to the Ozark UFO conference website and click on the register button below to basically get the virtual ticket. And I don't know if you noticed, I've been trying to get a lot of the people that are on that list to talk to them ahead of time for you to kind of get an idea who they are if you haven't met them or known about them. And it's been challenging to get all of them. So far, I've talked to Donna Lynn, Garnet Schulhauser, Mary Rodwell, Michael Horn. Next week, I'm going to have Terry Lovelace, a webcast, pre-recorded interview, and he's the author of, it's called The Devil's Den, I believe, a book, and the second one he had come out with. So we'll be talking about that and what that is all about. But and then potentially, don't hold me to it, I've been trying to get to have a live show with George Norrie, and we've been in contact, and he's been trying to work it out with his schedule. It potentially would not be Friday. I'll still have a Friday show, but it'll be maybe some other day. So maybe a Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So anyway, and so I've reached out to some of the other speakers. If I can get them, I'll do my best to get them beforehand. But you can always watch them and ask them questions yourself and partake during this Ozark virtual UFO conference, basically. They're hoping that next year we'll just be able to do it in person, and then I hope to see some of you there in person. But it is what it is for now. So yeah, check it out. And the platform is called Hopin. Basically, it'll be simple to register and just partake as an attendee, but it has built-in features to where you can share your audio and video, where you can chat with your fellow attendees as well, create your kind of private side chats, because if you find them in the chat itself, you can right-click, invite to a virtual call, and you can connect with them that way. And so it's very versatile, and I hope you do join us. It's a project that I've been working on at Ozark, so I'm very proud of it. I had to figure out quite a lot of how it functions, how it works, and kind of make it happen. I've been practicing with a lot of the speakers beforehand, and just kind of how to share their screen and if they have any audio or video things to show. I know I don't know if I'm supposed to say this yet, but Grant, the little bit of a conversation that I had with him Grant Cameron, that is, while we were practicing, he wanted to show a video or something new during the conference. And so he's excited about it. But then again, people usually are. I don't know what it is. So I don't want to, kind of set up some expectations. But that's the kind of backstage info that I have for you. So anyway, yeah, check it out. 2 more weeks as of this Friday. So it'll be April 10th and 11th, Saturday and Sunday. And on the Ozark UFO conference website, there is, let me go back here. There's a schedule right here. And it'll give you an idea throughout the day when they will be speaking. And there's also a session schedule, which is a Q&A. Basically, from the main stage, everyone will be going over to the sessions, and that's when you can have the option to ask to allow your audio and video to be shared, and you'll be put in a queue, wait, basically kind of like in person, you wait in line and ask a question when it's your turn. I hope everyone gets to do that, but I can't make any promises. So anyway, that's regarding that, so please check it out. Let me switch off of this. And then go back to chat where all of you guys are. So as always, if you have some questions, please put the 3 stars beforehand and then ask your question, so that way it pops out easier for me, so that I can see that it's in reference to me instead of you chatting with someone else in the chat room. So that'll help me out a lot. And so gotta get a little drink of water. So let's start out with the 5 stages of contact. The reason why I initially called it that is that because to randomly talk to people about different things like channeling and dreaming and contact and all these other things, it was like, it was too random basically, and I wanted to kind of figure out a way, based on my own experience, what it felt like, what stages were more prevalent than others, and kind of trying to see if contact were to occur worldwide, what can people kind of generally expect. And so the 5 stages of contact were basically something I'll go into details for each, but it's a consciousness touch, then first contact, channeling, dreams, and then official contact. And so what it is that the whole idea here is that contact has already occurred. And basically what that means is that our collective consciousness has been faced with something that is, no pun intended, alien to us. And it created kind of like a reverberating shockwave to where we started exploring with the ideas that there could potentially be other life forms on other planets. If we live on a planet, there must be also someone else living out there. Now, when I say that, I'm talking about collectively, that something has occurred for us to start thinking in those terms. Now, I'm sure throughout the centuries and for as long as humanity has existed, there have been people that on their own thought, well, maybe there is, other life out there if we are on a planet and there's all these things in the sky, which I'm sure depends on which stage we're talking about of humanity. They didn't know what stars or other planets were and whatnot. But anyway, the consciousness touch is in reference to when they were first sort of introduced to our psyche, our collective psyche. And it started then to translate into the idea, as we now know as, entertainment, where you basically have different people then follow their path and their imagination to create a movie or to write a book, and, at that time, especially, it was all fiction, of course, and science fiction. And then you had other things, more recent, like Star Trek and things like that. And what I had experienced was that none of that really was an accident. It's basically there to prime humanity to this potential that we're not alone, and that there's going to be an eventual understanding that we're not the only ones in the universe. But that process takes a long time. And so, we think it could, that it has to, that it might come tomorrow or whatnot. This has been going on for decades. And so but it keeps ramping up more and more. You know, I don't know if you got to see some of the recent movies, which were, oh shoot, what was it called? I believe it was called The Arrival, and it was basically where these different ships just show up and on different parts of the planet, and they're trying to figure out what that's about. Well, what was interesting, particularly about that one, is that they showed that the more you are in touch with them, it's like you start to dream more, and you start to understand more and more through the dreaming that kind of time is elusive, and that you don't know exactly it. They could be talking to you in the future, in the past, and if I'm remembering the timeline correctly. But the point is we're that is the kind of stuff that I'm defining as the consciousness touch, is that we're slowly being integrated into an idea that there are several different modalities when it comes to contact. So anyway, so the number one, the first stage has already occurred. We didn't realize it. It's almost like a person standing in a room, and peripherally you can see them, but you're not bothering to turn around and look at that person. You're just kind of, you're still, they're there, and for whatever reason you don't want to interact with them. You're still going about your business, doing what you want to do in your room, but you're not looking at them. And that is kind of what we're doing as humanity. I know I don't mean to piss some people off that are like hardcore researchers and all this other stuff. That's a noble thing to do, but there's still an aspect that a lot of us are unconscious to, that we're still ignoring. That doing research to a lot of ways is kind of like distraction of, well, I stick to the hardcore nuts and bolts stuff because that will delay more of what I have to look over and face. And that is kind of what the consciousness touch is. So the next one on the list is first contact. And also first contact is, I'm labeling it as these different ships, these different stories and contexts throughout throughout the decades that people have said, I've had contact, I've seen lights, and I woke up in this strange place on a bed with these beings around. That is what I consider the first contact, which is first contact more on individual basis. And there's different reasons why these different contacts are happening, but generally is to get as many people on an individual basis that can handle these different changes in energy between their energy and ours, and contact to officially occur, to get us basically enough. They can tell which people are kind of more easily approachable, to where they're not gonna, pardon my French, lose their shit when this happens, because that's exactly what occurs when this happens. As much as I wanted to be in contact with these aliens and and trying to understand why they're here, what they're about, for me it started when I was 15. It was a very strong drive, but nothing prepared me to the level of fear that came about. And as I've mentioned maybe before, and for those of you who don't know, it wasn't necessarily the fear that there was something to fear of them. It was the difference in that energy causes these physical reactions to us, to where it's such a level of fear that sometimes the brain almost can't handle it, and we would kind of go into a shock. And I don't know if some of you have followed Bashar channeling often. He talks about that as well. And in a way, I was very glad that I guess, learned about that beforehand while I was still doing my nuts and bolts research, because as it was then happening to me, it was like this little beacon of light that I could hold on to, and to basically, anytime I had an occurrence, to just say, it's okay. I know I'm scared and I can't do anything about it. I'm gonna be okay. And only after, more and more exposure to that, and the familiarity with what's happening to you, psychologically, once I kind of understood that, it becomes easier to just then next time, after so many times, to just kind of become aware of, oh, change is occurring, they're here, or something is happening. Let's just allow whatever information needs to come. And so anyway, lost my train of thought. Anyway, so generally first contact is basically to just get enough people kind of prepared, like I am here. That doesn't mean that my information is the all be all. I urge you all to go down every path you can possibly go to learn whatever you possibly can, and not to just kind of push things away. Just take whatever information you can, read about it, do whatever steps you can physically do to basically understand the subject better. Mine in the very beginning, obviously, was books. So I read every book I could possibly get my hands on, which was not a lot, and especially in the very beginning, David Jacobs' books, they were extremely scary because you read these stories about the salient race coming down and doing these, abductions against our will, and then they're creating this other race, and that could only mean that they're trying to take over this planet, and this army is going to land any minute and take over when they're ready, and that's, if I remember, the gist of those different books. And so even to this day, after I know better, I would still recommend for you to go in and read it. You have to read it on your own. You have to go down this path on your own. You can't always just be told by somebody. At the end of the day, experience trumps everything. And so you have to try to go in and do whatever you can to physically, for you to, let's say, be at a place, let's say read a book, let's say anything that requires you physically going after, instead of just sitting back and watching others kind of do everything and then complaining, why don't you understand the subject better? Excuse me. So that is basically the first contact, is to still, compared to how many people live on the planet, actual contacts are very rare and far in between. And it's basically just to prep enough people to, like me and Richard Dolan and Grant Cameron and many others, even if you're not doing anything publicly, even if you were just contacted on your personal level, to just even the people within immediate circle of yours, to kind of know you as, that is the person I can go to and talk to. Because a lot of times, all most people really need is somebody to talk to, is somebody that they can just confide into and say, hey, I've been going through this and I don't know what to do. Should I go to a psychiatrist? What's happening with me? All these other things. Because a lot of times when you go to a doctor, when you go to a psychiatrist, they always look at you as something that's wrong, that needs fixing, instead of simply being a voice of reason for you, or just being somebody there to listen. And I find that a friend and somebody close can do a much better job than having to pay somebody to go and listen, only to tell you some kind of clinical definition and something that they got from a book. And so, and this is not to disparage any, psychiatrists out there. I'm sure, they mean well, but when it comes to a lot of these different contexts, you really can't, you really can't find somebody who you can truly divulge some of these deeply, I guess, rooted experiences that change your psyche. So anyway, so consciousness, touch, then you have first contact, which is what I just explained. So channeling, where channeling comes in, and this is, again, everything I'm telling you about what I generally understood for the whole planet. And this is, this doesn't mean that somebody individually is going to have to go exactly through these steps, but channeling is basically their first way of making contact, of them announcing themselves through making connections with certain humans that can easily connect to their consciousness and interact with them, learn from them, and then get certain messages. And sometimes these messages are not exactly just there to be this airy fairy, oh, we're all one, let's all, hug and, dance and around the fire. Again, you can, but the point is that their level or where they're at requires a certain overcoming of emotional blocks, overcoming of fears, overcoming of misunderstandings. And so they kind of help through channels do these different, give you these certain messages to help you understand more about yourself. And so then that way, in every aspect or every point in your life, you can basically use those to work things out and be where you need to be, to where then when you are the being that you wanted to be, then the energy is not convoluted. It's kind of like try imagining water or bottle of water that has some kind of ink inside, just a tiny bit that's not quite, doesn't make the water quite clear. And try to think of energy in the same way. And that ink could be anger, could be a childhood fear, could be misunderstanding between you and your parents and any other relative, problems at the job, all these other things. Because it's, again, when you look at what does, for example, my issues at a job have to do with contact, when you look at it at that point of view, nothing. But when you try to understand it using spirituality and consciousness and energy, then you see that both of these have energies that need to be overcome. And so I'm sorry, I just keep losing my train of thought. Maybe because I'm a bit chilly here. I tried to get this place warmed up enough, but with all this equipment here, works better when it's cold. So my mind is just, that's why I keep doing this, just keep my fingers warm. So sorry for any kind of distractions if I'm doing some silly stuff. Basically, the channeling is to get you to just start working on things. I've had several videos out there where then I started with the very basic premise, which is the thoughts create form, but it's your feelings, your emotions that vibrate it into being. And this was actually I believe it's the Pleiadian collective that was kind of putting that eloquently in words. And what that means is that you can think about something all day long. You can, read about something all day long. You can even, watch videos all day long, but it's the inspiration, it's that desire to get you to get up, to go do something, to go to a meeting, go hang out with a friend, all these other things that physically make you go do stuff, that is what counts in this universe, in this the way that these laws are set up. So the whole concept is that find a belief that you have, and you usually it'll be always linked, or vice versa. Find an emotion that you have, let's say a fear, it'll always be linked to a belief of some sort. And then you have to then discern for yourself, and this is where a lot of that work comes in, where you then have to figure out what is it exactly that that you're what is it exactly that you need to change about it? So, for example, one of the examples I used was my parents and the way I grew up, because I was born in Bosnia, and the way the parents, at least my generation, I can't speak for the new generation because I have been back to Bosnia in like 30 years. Excuse me. And I don't know if things have changed much, but what it was is that they, it was so weird, coming to the United States, right? Or actually initially when we fled to from Bosnia to Germany, the parents did this weird thing where they were like talking to their kids, and my generation, there was no talking. The mom or dad says something, you either do it or you get the shit beat out of you, and half the time you don't even know why. And so you just do as you're told, be a good boy, and then, hope that you're not going to step on another landmine, which you don't understand what landmine it is. And so, of course, over the years, it creates a lot of these, animosity and challenges and difficulties within the family structure. So anyway, that was one of the things I was dealing with. And so through my experiences, and then of course, then, pondering more on them and trying to figure out, it was simply um, one thing that basically I found out, well, because of this collective in which we're at, everything is a reflection to you. And there is no such thing as an outside, and I don't want to like creep some of you out, but there is nothing else outside of this source. Uh, it is made out of us and we're made out of it. And so everything is has this beautiful way of functioning, as one, as infinite as it is, it still functions in this beautiful way to where there truly are no accidents. There's always only experiences and learning from them. And so in my case, then it was to understand my parents were the way they were to build me up to for what I was doing and what I am doing now, is to um, develop this mental fortitude when somebody and this is going to sound bad, I don't mean to disparage my parents anyway, but when somebody's abusing you mentally, for you to be able to find that spot to where you can still be yourself and kind of hold against whatever you're being attacked. And by doing that and having that experience with them, they built me up to that level to where when this contact, when I was had to physically deal with what was happening or psychologically deal with what was happening, I had that mental fortitude because I had a lifetime of experience dealing with it, and without losing myself. Because most people would just lose it. They'll go to a psychiatrist and and don't know how to deal with it. They have these different emotions, and they should work them out and seek whatever help they can seek. But the point is, for me, in the way that my higher self understood how this life is going to be, it knew what path to take. And over time, as I done got to hang out with more Bosnians, that live in the United States, and would talk to them. I wasn't the only one. They were basically raised the same way, And I remember, um, you know, before I tell you this, please don't be offended. I consider myself an American. I'm very proud to be an American and to be here, and grateful that I had this chance to finally not have to constantly be this, going from place to place hoping to find a home. So I mean, I say this very lovingly, okay? So one of my friends, and he's also born in Bosnia, and we're talking and we're having Chinese food, and he just says to me, Adnan, it was so weird. I mean, look at us. We went through, the war, some longer than others, and we've witnessed horrible things, people getting dragged out in the streets, getting killed. You just don't know if you're going to be alive, from second to second, minute to minute. And look at us, how we turned down. And now we come to America, and this kid I know got spanked 30 years ago, and he's still going to psychiatrist over it. So it was between him and I. It was this funny comparison, because I guess different cultures, different people, have different approaches, and how they do things. So anyway, I'm not saying that all of you have to have the experiences that I had to deal with what you need to deal with, but in your immediate environment, in your immediate area, just start out to understand what's not working for you. Is this job something you really want, or would you rather be doing something else? Because really, life is too short to just be being somewhere maybe for the sake of money or something like that, or maybe because of any other reason that's not really you. And just follow those things. And for example, in my case, when I was 26, I eventually couldn't deal with the structure anymore and the way that, my family was, and so I just moved out. I got out, found a house, bought it, and then told them that, hey, I bought a house, and it all had to be done in this kind of secretive way because I know they were going to be pissed. Anyway, so then I moved out 50 miles outside of St. Louis, which put me in this house in the woods, similar to where I live now, to where then I was able to then explore and experience more. And some of these videos that I had, I cover a great deal about meditation, binaural beats, And then, of course, I'm not endorsing this. So anyone watching, you have to do what is right for you. And I'm not, saying that you need to be doing this. But one of my paths and the way I was, where I arrived in my life was psychedelics. And as you can tell, my vice is food. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I have no desire to do any, to do like a habitual drinking or anything like that. But at the point in my life where I was at, things were brought to me at a certain time to where the understanding was I could understand and learn a lot quicker this way. And that's a different story. I can maybe after I get through this list, I can maybe go over some details later. But anyway, so bottom line is, go do what you need to do, and get your own life in order the way you want to be if you truly are desiring contact. Because here I am, I've literally moved and financially invested in believing in this understanding of I want to have contact, but if it requires for me to truly be right here and everything sorted out, at least majority of it, I needed to do what I needed to, invest however much money I needed to, do what I need to, move where I need to just to work it out, And so I'm basically also telling you, if there's something you can act on, please do. So anyway, excuse me. So the other one, the fourth one, is basically dreams. And the way dreams comes in is that when you worked out enough of your own blockage, whatever needs to get done, when you are in that mode to understand, well, I can't call aliens, there's, SETI has been trying to send a signal for years, and they're not, as far as I know, not receiving anything. And in my personal experience, I don't think they ever will, because it's very inefficient way to communicate, and according to my understanding, and it's a lot easier to basically use these, I guess, for lack of a better word, telepathy. And you can basically, even though you're not quite sure how telepathy works, you don't have to. The point is, the different races, they understand it. These beings, they understand it, and they, a lot of times, it's a lot easier for them to communicate with you through your dreams, because when we're physical and awake like I am now, there's a lot to overcome, because the body has a lot that basically has to be overcome. It's designed to function on this plane in a certain way, and so you have comparable tolerances, to heat and cold, different energies, electricity, all these things that are out there. You're limited, and your body is designed to basically keep you here. It's kind of like Bashar often used this example, a scuba diving suit. It's like you can be on land and be like, I don't need scuba diving suit, and then you're get in the water, and you quickly realize why you need one. And so same thing with this. It's like there's a lot that physically is very difficult for us from our point of view to do physically. So it's a lot easier to allow yourself to, before you're going to sleep, to just allow the imagination to flow. Don't push it, but just allow it to, whatever comes to mind, fine. It's like, oh, I forgot to turn off my computer at work, or something, or so and so asked me to go to lunch tomorrow. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. There's all these daily things that go by, but there can, and it is possible for you to eventually to just get to a point to where you're not asleep, but you're also then finally at peace, where your mind has finished processing what it needs to process. And it's between that time is that certain imagery and certain feelings can come to you and overcome you, and those are the ones that you can then look at and analyze. Because I remember the first time it happened to me, I mean, the second it occurred, when your thoughts are your thoughts and when certain thoughts are not your thoughts. There's no mistake about it. There's no, well, did you maybe imagine it? Did you this? No, it was a distinct difference in the way it felt, that something else is basically kind of going, hey, hello, hello, and so by then going to sleep, just obviously beyond that, then you have no other control other than to just let the body shut down. But pay attention to your dreams, and there's certain dreams that are going to be telling you certain stuff that when you wake up, I suggest write them down or maybe record them so that you can listen to it later, to where there will be certain symbols and certain feelings that will be accompanied with it, that then will give you the next instruction to continue the work on yourself. Start with your beliefs, then work with this, to then eventually to where you can physically have a contact and basically be prepared as much as you possibly can, without you losing your shit. Because and that process, I don't know how long it takes, because I know for me it took years, and what I mean years, 5-6 years, to just tirelessly, just constantly be at it, and have no other purpose in your life, to just, okay, this is my next step. I need to lay down, I need to do this, and just relax, relax, relax. And a lot of times, I mean, a lot of that time is wasted too, because I was trying to force it. I was like, I'm going to get to the bottom of it the same way that I initially, when I was 15, started out with this, going, I'm going to do research. I'm going to read every book, every document there is, and I'm going to get to the bottom of this. And when you do that, you have a certain mindset that something has to be a certain way, and that creates a lot of problems, because then you are basically forcing something to work in a certain way when that's not how it works, like you're convinced it is, instead of just allowing it to be for what it is, and then let the journey take you where you need to be taken. And then, and of course, the fifth one is the official contact, which I believe then maybe between now and 2025 might work itself out in the United States and maybe worldwide, because we're kind of going through as a country and as Earth on the planet, going through all the stuff that's been within, So now think of that as governments and hidden things, and governments and people then don't mean us well, for them to finally be called out, to be out in the open, and that would take quite a bit. And then maybe another 5 to 10 years after that, and don't take my word for it, until finally the world is ready to just kind of come to an understanding to where, okay, we can make contact without everything halting on the planet and basically to our detriment. Because when you have too many things disrupting everything, then there's food supply lines, water filtration systems that still need to be working, electricity, all these things as we understand it, and there's always my desire and hope that a lot of these different things that are kind of on the peripherally, out there, basically some talks about hidden technology that's already existing and all of that. I'm not too sure how much of that will, really come out anytime soon. I don't, having experienced what I experienced, obviously, then I have to say that everything is possible. But me personally, I do not know. So I can't tell you that, just because I read something on the internet, that I can say, well, so-and-so said so, so therefore it must be there. I'm sure it probably is there, but I can't put all, all my money on the table saying I believe that. It's like it goes right back to I need to have my own personal experience about this so that I can discern for myself, break it down, work on it, understand it before I can, speak about it or even convey to somebody else. Sure, I'll tell a friend. It was like, hey, did you read this? That they might have some technology that we don't know about, but it's just talk between buddies. It's not something that, I would, like I said, put some money on it. So anyway, if there's anything else that you would like me to go through and in details, please let me know. Let me see. I'm going to go to questions if you have any. I'm just going to back up a little bit to see if there's any questions from before. But otherwise, please remember to use the 3 stars in your comment before you put the question down. And just a question of yours might help me jot different aspects of our memory that I can talk about, because I can't talk about everything at one time. I mean, this is years of a whole bunch of stuff happening, and I always try to give you the general big picture, but only when somebody kind of asks me the right question can I go into that picture and go into the details to give you more. If I know. If I don't know, then I'll just tell you I don't know. Okay, we have one question. I'm sorry if I missed somebody earlier. So this is from Bradley Kurtzen. Yeah, Bradley Kurtzen. How did this all start for you in this subject? Well, I was 11 years old when we lived in Germany at that time, and I just went to bed, like I usually do, and there was something strange to say in these terms. There was that time period was like this really weird one where I loved to go to sleep. It wasn't like, oh, I'm tired or go to sleep. It was like this desire, like, oh, I want to hurry up. Let's, when is bedtime so I can go to sleep. And it had to be dark and it had to be when everybody was asleep, and I would always just, when I closed my eyes, I would always just see, I don't know if you guys that have Macs that have ever seen that screensaver where you have this one point that has all these tentacles coming out, and theirs are in different rainbow colors. But this particular one, every time I would close my eyes, I would see it as just white, and I couldn't understand why I would still see color even though my eyes were closed. Now, of course, there's some tricks your brain can play on you and whatnot, but for the sake of the story, that's what was occurring on a regular basis. And then finally I felt that whatever that was happening, it was, each night it was always closer and closer and closer, to where one time then that light or one of the tentacles basically overcame me, and basically just all I could see is white. And that whiteness just turned slowly into an environment to where I noticed I was more of in a jungle area. And quickly I noticed that there was somebody laying down on the table, and there were these short, like maybe 2 to 3 feet hooded beings that were around it. But that table was not, well, for what I perceived, there was a jungle with like a stone altar, and that someone was laying there. I often pondered about whether or not that was me in one way or another, but I can't tell you for certain, because anyway, so as I was, and I could concentrate on this environment very easily, and I could see it's very lush, like a forest and or a rainforest would be. But every time I tried to focus on what was going on there, it was very blurry, and I couldn't see what was going on. So finally, as I was kind of just hovering around, I just forced it to just like, I really want to focus. You know, when you squint to really try to see what's going on. And I tried really hard, and all of a sudden the picture was clear, and I could see more. I still couldn't see who was laying there, but the second it became more clear to me. Going, yes, now I can inspect this more in detail. One of the beings there just turned like this immediately in my direction, and I could tell that it had like a frog-like face, and it had a very short legs. It immediately kind of started to it's more like a short person would try to run or make long strides. It was running like that towards me real fast, and all it did is it had like a king's scepter in its hand, and just hit me right here. And I immediately got up, and I was in my bed. It was dark, and I didn't understand what was going on. So that was like the first time that kind of constantly was gnawing on me. Over the years, I moved on with my life, but what was that? It was very vivid, very real, and not very much like a dream, because I've had plenty of dreams, and up to that point, this was entirely different. And then finally, when we worked out to be able to immigrate to the United States, I was actually I was 15, and there was a place right across the street where I initially started out to learn about computers and all these different things that had my friends that became my mentors that taught me about computers and programming and things like that I'm into today. Well, when I was 15, I was trying to cross the street from that place over to my house just every normal average day, and just for no apparent reason, and just really weird to say, I just immediately stopped and I just looked up, and I don't know why. I just just this feeling overcame me, like, why don't we spend more time trying to figure out if there's other beings on other planets? It was simply that straightforward. Though it wasn't, the only thing weird about it is that feeling overcame me at that time. Now I know better, but at that time it made no sense. I mean, why would I do that? And so that kind of got me going to start with books and start out and eventually be where I am today. Sorry, I'm sorry if I'm quiet. I'm just kind of looking through to see what different questions are there. Next question down is from Hazel Blair. She says, Adnan, has your life been bettered since your experiences? Are you happy to have this knowledge? I I do I do because it felt like I'm fulfilling a something in my life that I couldn't quite put my finger on it. It's almost no different than a person that, let's say, they love to be a carpenter, or want to be a lawyer or anything like that, and they have that goal there, and then they strive towards it to finally achieve it, and it feels good and it's satisfying, and it almost seems like that was my little inkling that kept constantly pushing me in that direction. It's kind of weird because I couldn't talk to people, especially during that time. I mean, late 90s, early 2000s, it wasn't really this quiet accepted. It was still within the same realm as ghosts. If they said, somebody said, I believe in ghosts, everybody's like, he believes in ghosts. It was this shameful thing to have to deal with. But at one point, obviously, in my life, where it was when I turned 25, I simply said, I either go down this path wholeheartedly and figure out what this is, openly, meaning, and not hide it anymore, or I shut up forever now and just be, one of the regular people on the planet, And so I made that choice. And so anytime somebody asked me, from that moment on, anytime I was taking off to go to different conferences to do interviews, my boss would say, "Where are you going?" It's like, "I'm going to UFO conference." "Oh, really? Okay, well, have fun," and then coworkers would start making fun of me. They would draw a little picture on a post-it note and then expand one of the scotch tapes and then stick one of the UFOs to it. And they're like, "Look, UFO caught on tape," and just silly stuff like that. But at the same time, I knew that I was doing this for myself. So it wasn't important to me at all if they understood or if they believed me. It was, I could not care less. It's like, okay, you don't care, fine. I'm not here to change your mind, but there were plenty of other people that would then come to you. And then now all of a sudden you become this beacon to where they can talk to you because they're not open about it, but you are. And I remember I was sitting at the desk just like this, and I was staring at the monitor, and I just see two people kind of pull up, and I look up, and it's the IT guy for the company I worked for at that time, and my boss or my director. And I look up, and I just keep like, all these things go through my head, like, what did I do now? I'm trying to figure out, like, did I F up something, and all these things that go through my head, just trying to see why are they here. And the first thing out of his mouth is like, "So I hear you into UFOs." I was like, "Ooh, yes, I am," And then he starts telling me his story. And then she stood there just to hear it out. And she was interested to just hear our conversation. It's almost like this veil was lifted, like, hey, it's okay to talk about, ghosts and aliens and everything else. And you want to specifically find a person, there's Adnan right there. And so, it helps kind of just to know, others that you're into that, and I never was a proponent for try to get people to understand or try to get people to, to believe me. It's only when they wanted to know, it's only when they were really interested and then, were seeking out to speak to me, then I'll be telling them all I can possibly can that's relevant to them. Because sometimes some of the information, it's stuff I learned better 20 years later, and it has a lot more, I guess, more advanced understanding, as opposed to where they are. So no point of me telling them about it. So I have to kind of think back of where I was at that stage and then just give them help that way. But yes, overall, it has. I mean, I had an entirely different path. I wasn't supposed to do any of this. My path was to fix computers and maybe do websites on the side and just kind of make a living that way and just have fun and hang out with friends and just live my life. But after these different experiences and the eventual download that I received, it turned everything into this. And it was no accident because that download basically also um, helped me see that there was no accident that I was living at a place where right across the street I was able to learn about computers. There was no accident that because of the way my dad is, he's kind of like the jack of all trades. So I kind of picked that up from him to where there's no aspect of anything here that I don't know how to do by myself, so that I could create my own structure and then go about making, let's say, ufohub without needing to rely on someone else to help me out. At least when it comes to the physical doing part, I could, at that time, I could do the website myself. I could figure out the recording myself. I can make a server or a computer that can stream myself and all this other stuff. This other question is from Hazel Blair again, and the question is, are your dreams a link to contact, and can we encourage this? I do hope so. I have had some nice dreams regarding this subject. When you are truly desiring contact, dreams are definitely one of the, obviously, as I said, one of the stages that you can use for your advantage, because when you have a deep desire about something, there, it's not an accident. Whether it's something for your personal life to become a painter or an actor or something like that, and then you go about to follow it. When you have a desire to make contact, and then start learning about what you can possibly do, that is a certain frequency. That's certain energy that it's broadcasted out from you, and it's it's basically picked up by the agreements, by the different beings that you had made agreements with to have certain experiences at the time that is right, and that is kind of like a beacon to them to say, oh, okay, they're finally at the stage where you needed to be. For some people is, let me go to school, let me have a family, let me have a good job, and then after that I'll have all this time to deal with that. And for most of them, they have this desire to go about it, and next thing you know, they're having experiences on their own. And for others, happens seemingly out of their control, to where it just occurs to you, you don't know why, but it just happens, and you kind of have to deal with it like a fish out of water, trying to figure out what's going on. And but then again, that's how you set it out for yourself. This next question is from Mom Du Lorian. Did you ever have an initiation dream where you were made aware of the level you achieved? Well, I personally have never. Of course, there are, like, everything I describe. Sometimes I describe it in levels because that's how our mind works. But um, think of everything, or the energies or the consciousness itself, kind of like an ocean. Sure, we there's different levels and depth and pressure when we think of ocean, but um, think of an ocean that doesn't have an up or down, you know, and no left and right. How do you measure different changes, right? And the only way that I experience it is through different energies. They're not better or worse. It's just different occurrences happen on different levels. So when we're talking about also dreams and initiations, as you mentioned, no, I've personally not experienced that. I just knew that certain dreams had certain messages that I needed to pay attention to, needed to try to think about more, figure out what it means, and kind of not just think, oh, that's just a dream, let's forget about it. Um, Sorry, I'm reading some more, trying to figure out where else, who else has another question. This question is, sorry, it sometimes takes me a while to scan through to make sure that it's actually meant as a question. This one again is from Bradley um, Kurtzen. Um, it says, Adnan, I haven't had any direct experiences, but this subject has been in my life since school days, to the point of humiliation. Still not sure why I followed this subject. Any advice? Well, as I've mentioned, um, when we, a lot of times I notice, when you still used to live in St. Louis, a lot of people would go to these different meetings, and then they'll always talk about the latest documentaries and latest movies and the latest book and all these other things. And that is all great, nothing against it whatsoever. But you have to kind of discern for yourself, are you truly seeking out to understand how you can, better approach or make changes in your life? Or are you just using all these different things for entertainment purposes? because I found a lot of times, and if people really dig deep down, they like that entertainment value, no different than a good movie or a good book to read. And to them, it's the next abduction story, the next contactee, the next story, hoping to hear the same thing in a different, more exciting ways. And if they don't, then sometimes these disparaging comments are made about, oh well, you have nothing new to say. It's like it's same old rehash stuff. We heard this before, and things like that. And it's just, in my opinion, people that just simply are using it for entertainment purposes. So if you're not getting new entertainment, then I don't know what you expect to get out of it. The because the I've often used the example as an analogy of love. And let's say before you are in love and you find that special someone, and someone who you really care for, and hopefully the other person cares for you as well. Before that happens, you make yourself believe that it's everything, that it's I need the iron shirt, I need to go to the gym, I need to work out, wear the new shoes, smell good, everything you can to attract someone or the opposite sex, if you that because that's what your desire is. And so the whole idea of that is that you have this idea that that's what you need to be doing, right? And the next thing you know, when it does occur to you, and to a lot of us, it just happens out of nowhere, where you just meet a person to where none of that matters. Not one single thing of that mattered. There was a connection you make with the other person to where they don't care about any of that. You don't care about any of that on their end. You simply care for who they are and want to grow your life together with them. And so it's a very similar way. In this way, you can go out and read the books. You can go to these different meetings, try and understand UFOs. You can watch documentaries. You can listen to scientists, all these other things, but at the end of the day, I know that if it's not in your path to just have an experience out of the blue without you having to do any hard work for it, it's challenging, and so simply, try to find ways to where, go out on walks, for example. Go out on walks where it's just going to be you and not many people around. And if you're really into that subject, and you're not really that much into the spiritual stuff, like meditating or listening to your dreams and all these other things, then go out on walks, and then simply just relax and have a good time with no expectations. Just if you have a dog to walk your dog there, and simply put yourself in a position to where, fine, you're saying you're ready, but you put in the condition of that this has to be more of a physical experience to give you that jolt so you can go to the next level. And so sometimes certain things could occur that way, not guaranteeing that it will, but I'm just trying to, come up with some kind of analogies or examples to give you that you can take, instead of it just being this obsession that you constantly have within you, but it's seemingly nothing coming out to fruition. Let's see here. Yeah, if you have any other questions that I could, none of them are popping up here. Because I have to kind of look through to see which ones I covered, which ones I didn't. The challenging part is mainly, for example, talking about a physical experience, right? So I've been going through. I've often told about the story, but I'm just going to tell it again in short because there's some other points I want to make. So here I was meditating, and doing these binaural beats where you put over your ears, and it's these beats that have different frequencies, and you basically helps you to kind of just quiet your mind to then and I actually only achieved it one time in literally almost over a year of trying, to where I can quiet down my mind enough to where I fell asleep. I could feel my body just kind of going into sleep, and I was awake. And it was doing it. It was weird, when that happened. But using the binaural beats, it happened, And I always heard about that was possible, but only until that occurred to me, was it just always this great idea to know about? But it was the experience of having gone through that that told me that I'm on the right track. There's more there. It's possible. It is possible to have more experiences. And so, I worked, towards more and more things that I could possibly do to eventually have this physical contact. But what I want to talk about regarding physical contact itself. So when I had the occurrence over the house where I lived in Robertsville, Missouri at that time, when there were these two red orbs, first one and then second one appearing out of nowhere over my house, and that's when I kind of froze. It is still very challenging to physically trying to deal with their energy. Even as willing as I was to just sit back and like, all right, whatever needs to happen, let it happen. I still couldn't help my body just going haywire, because it feels like often, and I don't recommend anyone doing this. As I was working on the studio, I did all the wiring myself. Well, it's a bad habit I picked up just from my dad. It's like 110 ain't gonna kill you. So sometimes I don't bother switching it off. And so if you don't cross the wires just right and don't touch the wires just right, nothing's really gonna happen to you. But anyway, stupid things to do. Don't do it. Not recommending it. But anyway, I'm using it as an example. When you touch that wire, you feel like a little buzz. This is like this energy that goes through you. It's almost like you grab like 50 of them at one time. It locks up your body, and it's the energy that does it. And um, it's so difficult to tell somebody relax, when your body is just fearing and doing everything it can, because it portrays this different energy physically as an attack. No different than when you have a cut, you go, ow, you react to it. When you touch a wire, electric wire, when somebody hits you, you respond to where your body's telling you, hey, there's an impression or a thump or some kind of sensing going on. And you have to kind of look into the direction of what just hurt you, what is going on. When you can't physically see that, and you have just simply these experiences where it's more, when it's just this energy that you can't perceive coming from one way or another, because it seems to be coming from everywhere, your body kind of goes into this panic mode, because it's trying to protect itself. It's trying to understand what's going on, and it can't. Using your eyes, there is a body consciousness to your physical body, and in a weird way. Maybe I can get into that sometime, and it can't perceive a threat, but yet there's something there that's causing it to just be in this discomfort. And the more these energies change, the more your body goes into this mode of, I'm going to fix it, I'm going to fix it, I'm going to fix it. And when it reaches a level where you can't, you just kind of check out, And I've often been there on to that level, to where I felt if I pushed it any further, I don't think I would be sitting here right now. And what I mean by that is that I probably would have burned out something in my head, to where the receptors would not be working properly anymore, and you would only perceive me as a mentally handicapped person, And so I always had to kind of watch out and be careful with that. How far do I push it? Because even though I understood what was going on, I kept trying to say, okay, it's fine, let's get over this. And the more I kept trying to push it, the more of a difficulty I was having. And so I would not recommend doing that. If you ever, if you ever are in this extreme fear scenario, it's like, if you think you can manage to calm yourself down, please do so. But otherwise, don't push it. There will be other times, other opportunities where you can have more chances to get over it. It's no different than mm, when I first moved to the country, right? There was I'm out in the woods, so there's all kinds of snakes too. Not a lot, but there would be copperheads, king cobras, king snakes. um that'll be funny if there were cobras in the United States, but I doubt it. But then again, there are pythons in Florida and that are not local to the state. But anyway, different story. What I'm trying to say is, one of the fears was I would have almost this debilitating fear just seeing one 15 feet away from me, and I would just freeze, like it's this fight or flight mechanism kicks in, and so over this period of time, that I lived there, all the years, I made myself get closer and closer to each snake that I ever saw, to where I was very close, within a foot or two, and not to, obviously, I didn't want to interact with him any closer, because I would have, probably gotten bitten, because I don't know exactly how to handle them. They probably don't know what the hell I'm trying to do. But the point was, it was a fear, that talking about, and a fear, and then trying to figure out what the belief system is. I grew up in more majority of the times in city environments. Even though I was camping a lot and doing outdoor stuff, I was never really around, things that could be potentially dangerous, like, let's say, copperheads, right? And so I overcame the experience that way by forcing myself to constantly be closer and closer and closer. But unfortunately, that really didn't start until when I was first got in the house. I was trying to clean up this pile of leaves, and as I was moving it, the leaves felt heavy, and there were two snakes, two copperheads, just coiled in, and it looked like they were blinded or something. My fear was so great, that I freaked out immediately, and like I found a 2x4 next to me, and they weren't moving, so I took that as an opportunity and I bashed their heads in, you know, because the fear was so great. I felt like I needed to do that. When that occurred, I felt like shit. It was like the worst feeling that I've felt in forever, because they didn't do anything to me, but I allowed my fear to overcome me so much that I just killed them, and they were just probably hibernating, or whatever they were doing. And I just, that really then helped jumpstart my, I'm going to overcome this fear. And I have forced myself each time. I mean, I even did, that was the physically me doing something that morally was hurting me, knowing that I just killed those two snakes, for really no reason. I could have handled that better, and I did other silly stuff before that, but it didn't occur to any harm to the snake, so it didn't really click with me to really want to fight this harder, to come to a better understanding, to overcome my fears. But I had my concealed carry at that time, and I was kind of going in and out the back porch, and there was a concrete patio. Well, anyway, I was getting out, and I saw this rod sticking out. Oh, what is this rod here? I never seen it. So I just thought I want to go and take it out. I quickly realized it was the snake coming out of the hole. Foolishly, I just got out. I got it out. I was like, bam, 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 bam. It like coiled back in and went into the hole. I didn't hit it, but that was one of perfect examples how absolutely silly and stupid, I was reacting, And anyway, after the other two snakes, after I then killed them, that's when I progressed to overcome it. And so, sorry to kind of give you this roundabout way to get to my point, is work towards what you fear the most. It's like, look at it, think about it differently, change your belief system, and you change the way you look at certain things, and your life will be that much better, and that much more productive, and that much more happier when you have less baggage to have to carry around with you. If you guys, we can keep going if you like. I don't know if you have any more questions for me. If you can maybe give me a direction that you would like me to go into, I can do that, because otherwise I can come up with something else. Just give me an indicator in the comment section if you want to keep this going or not, because I understand it's your Friday night and you probably have other things to do. And like I said before, I certainly appreciate you taking the time to be here with me and just hear me out jibber jabber about my contact experiences. Okay, there's Elvir Begovic says, "Greetings from Holland. I will try to enjoy the conference. Keep spreading the light, bro. Pozdrav." Elvir is my brother's name too, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, welcome. Thanks for being here. Okay. Bradley Kurtzen again asking, "Have you ever woken up with marks on you that shouldn't be there?" Not that I personally noticed. The group that I was with in St. Louis, there was one particular friend of mine now, but this one guy, he often took pictures whenever he would have these different experiences. And so let's say he would have an experience where he felt um, they were doing something to him and he could see them. It would be particularly these grays that they would try to have this rod kind of go to his arm to do something. And then he would come to the meeting and there would be three perfect triangular dots equal from each other coming out. Now, of course, we kind of took him, by his word, understanding that we're in this supportive group of people just talking about their experiences. I don't know if he figured out somehow to draw it perfectly on himself and then have a cool story to tell, but we were we hoped that we knew each other, enough to know that these, we're all serious about what we're doing and not trying to pull one over, the group. And also, there was one, I mentioned this when I actually gave a talk at the Ozark conference in 2019. I often talk to my wife about before I say something in relation to her, because I don't want to involve her if she doesn't want to be part of it. I mean, she's totally into it, just like I am, and the but I still didn't want to mention anything if she felt uncomfortable about it. Anyway, she didn't mind. So what was interesting is that things don't stop when you have a family. Especially in my case, they never things have slowed down, but they don't exactly stop. Happening. And a perfect example was my wife. Next morning we woke up and we're kind of sitting there, she's making coffee, and she's like, "So I know you said to um, you know I don't want to scare you when I tell you this." And I'm like, "Come on, you won't scare me. Just what is it? What's happening?" She's like, "I had some interesting happen." And I said, "Okay." And she's like, I woke up, and just to give you a little setting beforehand, my wife and I, we have two queen beds together where I have my side and she has her side. I'm very hot at night. She is, and it's like cuddling is not possible, and all that stuff that usual couples do. It's like, I want my space, she wants her space. We love each other very much. It's just how we are, and it works out great that we both feel about it the same way. But the room is small, so the two beds, queen size beds, they're about 5 feet apart. And the way we had them set, they went from corner to corner of the room, and there was no more space. There's just literally just enough snug space and room for those two mattresses to fall into those two spots. Well, she said she woke up and looked over, and there was between her bed and my bed, there was about 10, 15 feet space. And then about another 5 feet of space past my bed. And she said there were 4 grays on each of my limbs, so on my wrists and my ankles. And they were, I can't remember if she said they were holding on or something was happening. And she said when she woke up, she looked, one of them turned around, looked at her, and then that was pretty much it, kind of waiting to see what she was going to do. She saw it, and I said, "What did you do?" She's like, "Well, I figured it's just them. I didn't know what else to do, so I just went to bed." I was like, "All right." I mean, I would have probably done the same thing, because we know what's happening. We don't always have to like try to figure out, oh my God, what is going on every minute. Things will come. And sure enough, while she's sitting there talking to me, and again, it wasn't a voice or anything like that. It's just a feeling that overcomes me and comes with an understanding. They just simply said, it's supposed to be the imagery was supposed to be interpreted not as control or them over me, but that they're guiding, meaning they're guiding my path, my direction, and yeah, again, it's one of those things where your thoughts, and then when other things come to you. And so those things can often occur, to where you just take that message as is and go on. That's one thing too, is that I like to think that I live my life normally, like everyone else. I go to places, have fun when I can. Recently, not so much, because we got 2 kids, another one due in 2 months, and so, I just, I don't talk to people about any of the stuff unless they approach me or they want to know. And so I basically, um, um, the when I tell people and go into the details of all this weird stuff happening, especially one of my coworkers and great friend of mine, she kind of heard me out of what I had to say, because she was kind of wondering, what am I doing at these conferences all the time? And I told her a little bit about certain experiences, and she's just like, but you seem so normal, like that's supposed to be kind of like a compliment, or it was a puzzling to her. And I asked you about, like, what do you mean? Of course I'm normal, and it's kind of like the way they perceive me. I do everything that a normal person does, but yet there's an entire life and these whole stories that are right there, that if you told anyone else, they'll just label it as just absolutely nuts, and so those are some of the funny things that I get from people often. Or one person's found out that I'm into UFOs and aliens and stuff like that. And she came to me and be all like, Miss Bazzy, and she's like, so I don't believe in aliens. I was like, okay. It's like, what do you have to say about that? I'm like, I have nothing to say. She thought I was going to be like, please believe in aliens. Can I please convince you somehow? I was like, no, if you don't, just good for you. Okay, I have this person wrote me last time too. They said just pronounce it the way it's pronounced in creation, but I still don't know. Rovad Revioms. I'm sorry. I still I don't I've never heard that name personally, so I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. It says, don't have my own experiences related to contacts with other races, so I find it hard to believe stories that are not part of my experience. How to recognize who is telling the truth? That's very challenging, because especially for me, because when I have to interact with any crowd, whether I'm in person or here, some of these things are so outlandish and really are unbelievable if I haven't gone through it myself, to where, I don't know if somebody's genuinely asking me a question or if it's somebody just asking anything silly just so that they can go to their friends and go, haha, look at these idiots. They believe in anything. Um, because you just, in a way, don't know, other than to just follow your own intuition. Because I've always, ever since I was a kid, and I don't know if this is a development that came later, and I'm sure everybody has it in some form or another, but there's like something within you that if somebody's telling me a story, it's 99% of the time I can immediately, it's like, this person is BSing me. But that happens a lot easier when I'm in person. I don't know what it is. I have no scientific explanation to say, well, they winked twice and they crossed their arms and that's a sign that they're about to tell a lie or something like that. It's just simply, I look at them and recognize that, okay, I let them finish. I let them think that they told me what they told me, and I let them go, even though deep down, I'm like, they were BSing me totally. Again, it's really difficult. It's really difficult to know. But to give you an example, for example, when I first got into the channeling part, right? Because I was so nuts and bolts about UFOs and books and scientifically knowing, well, we don't have the rockets, they won't get us that far out. We need a different fuel and all this other stuff, right? Trying to understand about UFOs. The, uh, the, sorry, I keep drawing a blank. It's going to come to me again. Okay, telling the truth. When I was shifting over basically from this nuts and bolts, when I found out about Bashar, it would be a guy in a chair talking with his eyes closed. And he would say some very profound stuff that just felt like it's right, and what he's saying is right. And he would be giving these directions, right, through channeling, as I mentioned before, about belief systems and how you should go about changing those, and it'll help you in your life. Well, that to me right there was something that I could follow up on, you know? And it's like at that time, it was kind of the thought, well, I have nothing else to do. I'm sitting here watching a guy channeling. And it's like, what else you have to lose if I just, try some of these things that he's saying? I mean, he's not asking any money of me. He's simply saying, change your beliefs and you'll change the way, you feel about something. And sure enough, as I progressed and did the same thing and applied that, I could see the vast changes in my life that got better. And so I went back to get more info and more changes and more things applied to my life, to where now I had my proof to say, well, he might be a guy sitting in a chair channeling an alien. That might not be true, but the information that they've given me, I was able to apply in my life to help me out. So that was a justification for me to believe and then move forward. And at no point over the years that I've also, tried to understand how to go about getting directions from them, at no point did I even feel that, wait a minute, this is wrong or anything like that. It was always very enlightening, always very informative, and it helped me to take the next educated step. The This didn't have any marks on them, but it says, this is from Hazel Blair, says, do you have a link for Bashar? If you go to um, the UFO Hub main channel, if you go to videos, I've interviewed I believe it was 2015 or so. I interviewed Daryl Anka himself, and it was great to actually meet him, because to me I was a little bit starstruck, because I've been watching Bashar and channeling, and then to talk to Daryl, and here I am sitting across from him, and he's just talking to me like a normal person, and being in his living room, real nice guy, and that was great. But anyway, there's interview about him there, and believe I should have had in the description box a link to his website there. Okay, this I'm sorry, I guess I skipped over this one. This was from Bradley. Bradley again says, as because years ago I woke up with rash in the shape of a hand that was bigger than mine. Have no idea where it came from. It it may mature. I make it may. I'm sorry. Maybe you misspelled something. It may or maybe natural. Is that what you're trying to say? Um, I make no assumptions. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. You know, it's when it comes to especially contact and when it comes to you having physical marks left behind to kind of give you startle or makes you wonder about what's going on in the very beginning, obviously through David Jacobs books and others, it created a lot of fear in this field. Created a lot of fear because it's something that was, you're being abducted middle of the night. Nobody can do anything about it. Neither can you. Sometimes you wake up during the procedure. Sometimes you don't, and it was very a powerless experience. I remember feeling very angry and pissed off. I was like, these mother effers, if they come after me, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and it was just funny thinking back on it now. The thing is that um, one of the experiences, just to cut it short so I don't have to go into a long drawn out story, when I learned that we make agreements before we're born, that we make agreements with everything that's going to be happening in our lives at a certain stage of our lives, and that you willingly went into this, into this knowingly what would potentially happen to you, similar to what I was saying about with my parents, because there was one particular instance where I overdid it with the hallucinogens and basically died. And that's when I had the experience of seeing my parents, but it was confusing me because why would they be there? My parents aren't dead, and I saw them both in this, they were very young. They were in their 20s, although they were close to 50s and at that time in my, in life. So it was weird. It was kind of looking at them as when I looked at them as a child, but they were kind of just, we were in this space that was just vast of just blackness, but they stood out and they kind of floated towards me and I floated towards them. And what was so weird is that my relationship with them there was entirely different. It was like my best buddies, my I don't know how to describe it, like the people that have my back no matter what. And that's when I had these occurrences of memories coming back of it was so weird because I like to draw my memories from my life that I experienced living. But when you have these experiences, that you didn't experience while you were alive, that had something before you were born, basically, it was strange. And it was a memory that I made an agreement with them. I even begged them because they knew what I was asking of them, what it would require for me to go through to be the person I am now, and all the things that I was describing earlier for them, the way they were raising me. And I had to beg them to please be these people I need you to be so that I can have this experience. And they agreed, and agreed very reluctantly, because they knew the pain that they would be inflicting, and nobody wants to inflict other people pain, and when I had that experience, that was also one of the examples where it just alleviated all my hate towards them, all my anger, everything you can imagine. It was just gone, and I understood. I was like, and I felt ashamed. I felt ashamed because here I was hating on them for being the way they were. But then when I had recalled my own memory about me asking them, I felt so bad. I was like, oh my God, I asked you, I begged you to do this. And look how mean I am to you now, And so, anyway, that is doesn't just happens for us, it happens in every timeline, because these beings are not like some kind of strange, you know, aliens that you can't relate to. They're also part of the whole, part of the source, just like you are. And so they have also their own experiences and their dimensions and their version of their existence, and we have ours. And sometimes, you know, there on that, on these different levels, there is no barriers. You can make agreements, you know, and depends on what it is that they want to do. You can be like, oh, hey, I want to be part of this, you know, hybrid program, or I want to be part of that. Now, of course, I'm simplifying it. I don't mean to make light of it, you know, but because at the end of the day, people are genuinely going through some very traumatic experiences. But other than asking you to dig deep down and try to do everything you can to where you can remember, and trying to figure out that, you know, hey, you wanted to be part of this, that is the only way. By you actually going into that direction to wanting to remember, will it help alleviate some of these things. So when you are, you know, waking up the next morning, you see some marks on you that weren't there before and have weird handprints and whatever, you know, just know that from my experience and in my opinion to you, is that none of that happens outside of your control. You are fully and utterly a willing participant in everything happening. Do. Let's see here. Is there any other questions that anyone else has that you would like me possibly to cover? Because I know you guys, you have, uh, you know, certain questions, and you want to share your stories and whatnot, and I do encourage you to do that, as I was saying earlier, you know, and but sometimes in a public platform, there's no quick help other than to maybe tell the story. There's really nothing that can be of substance that somebody then can tell you or give you that'll truly help in that short period of time, you know. And so that's why everything that was happening to me, other than maybe mentioning it to people that were into this kind of stuff as I am, I've never talked to anyone until eventually I was, you know, 20 years into it, and then finally just kind of got out the closet and just made it public and started living it in more of a public way. But other than that, you know, um, it's something that I constantly had figured out on my own. Had to, you know, whatever I had to do, that was just up to me to do. You know, the same way that you learning to walk, no one else can walk for you. You have to figure out how to handle your own body, get up and use your legs and walk, right? To just use a simple analogy. Same thing with this, you know, take these silly meditation, you know, courses. There's some free stuff online, you know, there's free binaural beats you can download, you know, there's meditations you can just do on your own without needing to specifically, you know, have to buy or listen to someone else. Just follow your own, you know. One example that was totally silly, but I in Germany I did Shotokan karate for a long time. And so this particular thing didn't necessarily have anything to do with having to use karate in the way it's meant, but just something silly that when I was younger, you know, you have a lot of anger and all these things that just kind of eating at you about things somebody said years ago, and you wished you said something back, and all this other stuff that I had to work out during that time. I didn't know what else to do. Everything I was trying didn't help. I was just getting madder and madder. And all I did is just in a silly way, you know, there was these two karate movements that kind of put them together. You don't usually do it at the same time, which almost turning into Tai Chi, to where I imagined all this anger and everything I didn't like about myself as this dark cloud that I just basically kind of compressed and collected and then kicked out. And I was just doing these silly movements in my room while I was still living with my parents, and I often was, it was so difficult to relax because when I'm really into it, I tune everything else out. Well, my mom is going in and out of my damn room all the time. So, it's like, how do you explain, like, I'm in the middle of doing this and she's walking in, And so that would have been embarrassing to me at that time. So, anyway, something that nobody told me to do, but something I did. So, anyway, just follow anything, follow whatever you feel like you need to do, to get yourself emotionally right, because only then will you have enough energy worked out to where it becomes easier to make contact. Well, hell, look at even, after all these years, I still have, challenges and difficulties where it's a lot easier for me, just please let me be asleep when you come, and just tell me what you need to tell me on that end, and it's a lot easier for me to digest that information. Because one time there was an occurrence when I was about to go outside and was pretty late, and I could sense something happening, and their energy coming through. And I was standing there talking to my wife, and she said, you look like you just wanted to disappear right there in front of me. It's like you could not care less for me being right then and there. Like you wanted me gone, And I said, I did, because I realized what was happening. And like when this paranoia, that's one of the physical effects, side effects that happens when this energy comes through. First, you start feeling paranoid for no apparent reason. Then it turns into this heavier anxiety, and then the more energy comes through, it's really hard, at least for the experiences and the beings that I've been wanting to interact, and the things that I've been wanting to experience. That is my path. I'm sure there's at one level that are other beings that are really close to us, to where those differences would not be that great, but shorter, or less, to where you might just feel a little bit uncomfortable, kind of like a nervousness before you meet somebody, like we do now on the planet. But as of my recent experiences, it's always been very, very difficult to overcome that part. This next question again is from Hazel. Do you think the aliens ever question where they come from like we do? Well, the certain of, it depends on which ones you're referring to. I can't speak from personal experience, regarding this. It was just others that I trust very much about this, is that especially out of body experience, the things that you experience when you're not corporeal, is that um, there's more there for you to remember. And that's also the other part, that you also become closer and closer to remembering that you are kind of part of this huge universal soup. And then more memories start coming back of why did you come here? And then more memories start coming back of other connections that you've had before, other lives, all these different things that can be very heavy and bearing, on you. And so anyway, but these different levels don't have that level of forgetfulness. So even though you can still kind of, they can still have like a society like we do, and go about their business and flying around and doing whatever they do, they don't have as much of limitation or forgetfulness as we do. This is just for our level where we live right now. It's a trait of our existence, that if you are coming down here to have this experience, to truly have an experience, you have to forget. Because if you even have an inkling or an understanding of what's coming, it's not an entirely fulfilling experience to be had when you already know, kind of like knowing the answers for the test you're about to take. It's not quite the same than when you don't know it, and you really truly feel the challenge. So for any of you still watching, I know sometime it depends because there's different people submit to the UFO Hub channel for different reasons. Because the initial way that I started out was to um, I didn't want to do this talking part. I was just I had this desire to want to do something about helping the field of ufology, but I didn't want to be a known face. I just wanted to keep living my life the way I was living it while I did interviews and just had the people talk. And so I know some people subscribe for those reasons, and then when they see me, they're like, what is this shit? And then they get out, and they unsubscribe, and like, this is not what I signed up for. But and so for me, the thing is, after a while, um unless someone else asks a specific question that I can then dive into something else that I can speak on an experience, it all becomes rehashed. There's only so much, so many times I can tell you the same thing in different ways. After that, if you can't take what you're being given and try to apply it in your life, it's just going to be on repeat. So that's why a lot of times when I make these different shows or shows, when I make these different talks, I try to cover different things, although I have to repeat some stuff. I try to cover it as much as I possibly can, but after a while, it just becomes the same old, same old. And so I try to avoid speaking again because I already have these videos for you guys to watch. And then if there's questions, then of course the questions could possibly be answered or not. But I don't usually like to just keep retelling a story or something, because people always ask very similar things because there are different stages. So if I explain to them what I've experienced, someone that has already watched maybe everything I already have, they're like, he's already talked about this. Why is he covering this again? And things like that. So that's why I personally am not a big fan of just having to rehash everything over and over again. That's why I wrote in the description, it said 5 stages of contact, more details, because I feel like I've given more details now than I've given in these different videos. Although on those, I just kind of covered everything as a general picture. With this, it's a bit more intimate, where you guys are asking questions and I can get more into the details. This is Rovad again. Can you describe in more details how you came to the realization that we are coming to have certain experience in particular life? Can you just quickly tell me, did you hear that story about what I just said about my seeing my parents in the afterlife? Meaning, did you hear me explain it or talk about it? Because that kind of answers your question already. If you didn't, I can go into it a little bit. Meaning, Rovad, if you can answer on the chat, I'm looking for it. I mean, looking for your answer. Plus, I believe there's a 20 seconds delay between what I'm sending out and what you guys are seeing. Anyway, so there's UFO man saying, "Hey UFO hub, hey UFO man, good to have you here. If you're still watching, Hazel, thank you for being here. I've noticed you previously on other channels. I mean, on other shows. Thank you again for being here too. And trying to see Rovad also last time here. Last few shows that I've seen. Also, Bradley, welcome. Yep. when it comes to it's I don't know, it's so difficult to describe because a lot of these experiences are things that you learn and mentally grow from. Although I'm still here physically, I'm older so many years, but my understanding is vastly different if I had to compare myself to how I was even 10, 15 years ago. You know, if I didn't have the experience that I did, I don't know, I would have just really been truly just a, average Joe, just doing my thing, maybe go and play soccer, maybe some baseball, and hang out with friends and just really just kind of look for those kind of activities to pass my day and would not have, you know, cared about anything or to care about knowing anything that I know now. And it does it just change your life in a lot of ways because it gives you it gives you a tool set that you can take and apply in certain situations, so that if I'm faced with certain challenges or difficulties before, I would be like, oh my god, why is this happening? You immediately like get frustrated. Now I'm just kind of calm, looking at what had occurred and then just drawing back from my experience, and understanding about more of the spiritual aspects. I can be like, oh, okay, well, this occurred because this and this reason, and all right, let's allow this to play out, instead of kind of just always reacting, because I can actually act on something that's happening and not always be blindsided by all the unexpected things. Um, Rovad, I still don't know. You haven't answered me. You said, can you describe in more details how you came to the realization? So I was asking you if you heard that story that I gave you to your answer. We said to the realization that we are coming to have certain experiences in particular life. Because what's so weird is that um, one when I was basically doing these different things, changing my belief systems and following your highest excitement, all these these spiritual aspects, these spiritual messages, when I was just following that, I uh, basically you come across certain things that in your path because you've attracted them. You put things out, you get things back. And so mine was always knowledge, 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 give me more, and so it basically got to a point to, as I mentioned earlier, where I came across these different, I guess, psychedelics. And one particular one is the one that I knew the least about, and it was called Hawaiian Baby Woodrow seeds. For any of you watching, I do not condone it. I don't recommend it. All I'm simply is telling you what had happened to me, and what resulted for that experience. But I was supposed to take like one or two of these little seeds, and I had 12 of them. So I thought it was a great idea to take all 12. And so I did, and nothing happened. Everything was just whatever, so I just went, about my business. I remember I got tired, so I just laid down. I was all right, nothing is going on. I'm going to go to sleep. And then, we'll see how far I sleep, get some more things done for the day, and go to work the next day. Anyway, I don't know how long went by, but when I fell asleep, I woke back up with this distinct feeling like something is wrong and that I've digested a poison. It wasn't paranoia, it was just this understanding, truly understanding that I effed up, you know? And so I went to the bathroom, I tried to puke it out. I drank so much water thinking I could maybe dilute it, But it started taking hold of me more and more and more, to where now I was going into these different spasms because the effect that it had on my body, it was almost like like you took a poison and there's nothing you can do. You're just basically losing control of what you're doing. And I fought it, I fought it. I even, I got to, I even cried out, it's like, I don't want to die now. It's like, I don't want to go, and I just kept fighting it and fighting it and fighting it. And, it felt like I fought it for hours, and I just, I don't know. I just, I didn't want to, I was standing up. I was slapping myself in the face, trying to get out of this, and thinking I could cheat this, like, whatever just occurred to me. And then I just gave out, I was very low on energy. I could barely move. I fought as much as I possibly could. And I just kind of laid down on my bed because I didn't want to be on the floor. And it was the saddest thing ever. I was like, I'm going to go. I'm going to go. And I just over something this stupid, and I kept trying to still fight it. I just heard it was more like a feeling that was translated into words, and it overcame me and said, you're going to die, but you're not going to die. You're going to die, but you're not going to die. And it was confusing, but I still kept, I didn't trust it. And then eventually, like, I really exhausted every ounce of my strength. And I just remembered when I just went, I was breathing out and I was out. And that was the experience that I basically had, um, uh, when I experienced what I did, and learned all the, that, oh, this was just another bump and phase of, um, this was meant to happen for me to learn this, to understand this at this point in my life, to understand that everything leading up to this point was no accident, and this was meant to happen in this way. And after all that I experienced, then during that time, I got like a quick, basically kind of came back, but I was still not out of the woods. And I just had the same feeling, kind of asked me, said, now that you know how this goes, do you still want to play this game? And I was like, yeah, I want to play the game. And the second I said that, all of a sudden, everything just became more solid. I was back here. But then I went and just did some unspeakable things in the bathroom. I puked it out, exited everything out of me in every way possible because it was a poison that needed to be flushed out. But it was that kind of control that it wasn't my time to go. So, whatever was guiding that process, it didn't end me. It's not like I got hit by a truck to where my body was disintegrated. There was still a control to where the poison could still be flushed out and just be done with. And anyway, so that was my experience of how I found out that this is nothing is an accident, that I can't complain and bitch and moan about what I've been through because, I chose this. I just have to basically experience it, see how it feels, and go through it because there's eventual reason why I chose to do it, and finally go through it and be kind of put it in my little experience book. Okay, so I think we put a good amount of time in this, and this is all I had to say. I'm sorry that it didn't work out to get an interview with another guest, but I promise next week uh, it would work out better. And honestly, I tried. I had I don't know if I said 5, 6 people I contacted. Everybody's like, "I'm so sorry, I can't do it this Friday," and this was one of those things to where I couldn't get out of it. It was either not have the show or just be me here sitting talking to you guys. And so I don't know whoever needs to see this or hear this. I hope you get something from it. Um, and but at the end of the day, just please try to go and figure things out on your own. I understand it's okay if you ask questions on occasion, but when it truly comes to understanding something, you can't just constantly going out asking. Take the time and just go within. Like where do you improve? What can you do as you're sitting wherever you are sitting, and then take that step with constantly in mind of contact. And it could be that maybe it takes that long, like in Bradley's case, but I still think it's not so much that it took so long, but I think this is just my intuitive opinion, take it with a grain of salt. I just think that, you can make a lot more progress if you um, looked at it um, less, or try to use it less for entertainment. Not saying that you are, but try to look at it more as each piece of information valuable on its own, and then try to act on each one of those if you can act on it. So anyway, um, I think we covered quite a bit. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. So next week, hopefully by Wednesday, I'll have a webcast video up for you guys with Terry Lovelace, and then we'll see. At one point, I'm hoping that maybe next week I can get George Nori to talk to him. It wouldn't be on Friday; it will be some other day at 7 p.m. But I'll still have another Friday night show as well with another guest. So potentially that week there could be two live UFO Hub streams. So anyway, thank you all very much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for spending your Friday night with me. I hope you learned something. Please check out any of the other UFO Hub videos. Please subscribe if you're just watching this, and if you haven't already, like the video. It of course helps with the algorithm, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for being here.